Hi, Sarah. How are you?
What's up? How's it going, Steve?
I'm doing good. Where are you at the moment?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Home, sweet home.
Yes. Are you in Montreal?
I am in Montreal. I'm not
Nice.
originally from Montreal. I'm from England, but
Okay.
I'm now based in Montreal.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a cool city. Have you been
Cool.
here?
Yeah. I've not, but I really want to go. I've only heard good things about it.
It's very cool. Like most artists I don't know about most, but a lot of artists that I speak to, they just rave about Montreal and they always seem to have a good time. But yeah, there's a good scene. So hopefully you'll be here soon.
I hope so too.
Yeah, so I'm really interested in in you because like you've got a good story and you dabble in quite a few different things, but I want to explore like where you came from musically, like going back as a little kid. What was the first thing
hmm
you remember listening to at home?
I think my parents were played a lot of the records that they grew up listening to or that like struck them when they were in high school, which is everything from Stevie Wonder to Simon and Garfunkel to Willie Nelson to like my dad has this like really awful disco like kick that he went through that definitely is like a little bit in the background and yeah, so that was definitely like early stuff. Oh, I also feel like once I was in middle school, I kind of like dug more into punk world and into jazz world and kind of like tried to like break out of my boxes of music that was like in my dad's car.
That was going to be my next question is, do you remember like a specific band or album that became your own rather than something that your parents had in the house?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, when I was in middle school, I started taking drum lessons, and I feel like that was a huge um, game changer because all of a sudden I was like trying to find music that I could like rock to. So I was like finding out about Green Day and Blink 182 and also like Led Zeppelin from my drum teacher and Nirvana and like sort of like anything that you're like, oh, that has a great drum part. It was like stuff that started to be on my radar, as well as sort of like a weirdly like more out taste in like jazz and like kind of scholastic feeling music because I was playing music in school and like that's what I thought was cool and I wanted to be, I think, sort of esoteric compared to like whatever my friends were listening to on the radio. So I had to go back and do a lot of like education about pop from like 2000 to 2007 when once I was like older and could appreciate it a little more.
Yeah, because I feel like what I know about you, your music taste is very varied. I know you've got a heavy punk influence from growing up, but I feel like you're open to all kinds of genres, and you kind of confirmed it there. And you also like the pop and R&B and stuff like that. Have you always been like that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think the one sort of like dark era was probably from like age 12 to like 16. I feel like I really wanted to be different than the people around me, and so I dug a lot deeper into sort of punk and um stuff that wasn't your average listening. I think for a teenager, I would like go to the library and like, you could get CDs from the library and
Right.
burn them basically on your computer for free and like, um but yeah, now I listen to everything, and I'm a total poptimist. I love pop music. I think it's like such a wonderful. It really is like craft at its highest potential, I think, and they've sort of cracked this code into like decoding people's brains and what they love about music. But yeah, everything from like fully whatever's on the charts to I really loved, actually I'm wearing this Philip Glass shirt
I was
because
noticing your t-shirt.
I was watching this TV show called 100 Foot Wave, and he does all the music in his very like oceanic ambient fashion, and so yeah, there's kind of like nothing that's off the table for me anymore. I feel like there's a lot of good in most music.
So when you think about your childhood, is there one album that you think of? Like let's take you back to maybe like 14. Is there an album from around that time that you just think you play to death?
Definitely Blink 182, Take Off Your Pants and Jacket was like hugely, hugely on heavy rotation. I feel like weirdly, like I had this Miles Davis like greatest hits record that I really loved because
Right.
the drummers are Tony Williams and Philly Joe Jones and like all these sort of like amazing drummers that I was really into in high school. Um, Other than that, uh, the Minor Threat record was on heavy rotation for sure. Um, Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life was weirdly kind of continued to be a favorite record of mine, even from when I was a kid until now.
Yeah. So, as I expected, a really kind of across the board selection of records, even as a teenager, right? Which a lot of people, when they're in their teenage years, they kind of go down one path musically, and then maybe later on they start to broaden their horizons. But it feels like you've done that from a very early age. Do you feel like that has basically formed the sound of your band moving forward? Like there's all those elements kind of come into one?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think that the way I write is often sort of compiling stuff that I don't even know that I'm compiling. And so the more I can get my hands on, the more color palettes that I have to choose from basically in making music. And I think that whether I'm like realizing it or not, I'm always referencing my heroes and I'm always sort of thinking about my favorite writers and my favorite records that have been like playing in the background of my life.
Yeah. And obviously, we've had this kind of downtime over the last year and a half due to COVID. What role has music played in your life during that time?
I think towards the beginning of when everything shut down, I was walking around a lot. And so I was just trying to listen to like everything new that came out. And I was like trying to catch up on records that I had missed or records that were being talked about. And I wanted to sort of like get a better grasp on like what was new. And then I went through sort of this thing where I was like listening to like Harry Nilsson stuff exclusively for some reason. Like I just was like went back to all that stuff and
It's like comfort food.
yeah, kind of. It is like comfort food. And I feel like his sort of like brand of pop specifically is like really timeless and like has a lot of stuff going on in it that's very interesting and very sort of out compared to like what his contemporaries were doing. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I kind of like went through a wave. There was definitely a chunk of the pandemic where I like wasn't really listening to anything because I was working on my own stuff and also because it just like wasn't I was just kind of needed a break and was like reading a lot more, listening to podcasts or just sort of like walking around the world without headphones in. But yeah, it definitely comes and goes a little bit in waves over the course of this last year and a half. And I think lately I have been sort of absorbing a lot more music and trying to, every time I think about an album that I want to make sure I listen to all the way through. I like have this playlist of just like stuff that I called Up Next, and it's just like records that I've been meaning to check out for a while.
Right. So in that time, what records have you got excited about? What's really grabbed your attention that you've been telling your friends about?
Dang, that's a hard question. I feel like there's been a lot. The Katie Kirby record, I absolutely love. I think that is one of my favorite albums that's come out in a long time, actually. What else I feel like I have to look at my Spotify to like to cross check myself here because I don't know. I got like into a lot of like old like country, like from the 50s, like sort of bread and butter Western and country music. Because the storytelling is so vivid and
Right.
weird, which I really love. I like have been going through like a little bit of a Death Grips phase again, which just like sort of sonically is interesting to me. There's this new artist called Dora Jar, 2 words, like Dora and Jar,
Okay.
who put out an EP and it's really interesting and really exciting production and writing.
So let's talk about your music. You've got this album coming out, which is Let Me Do One More. Now, in this time, a lot of people have had time to kind of think about how they want their lives to look moving forward. like when things hopefully start opening up again, how they want to live their lives, and maybe it's given them time to kind of rethink things. And obviously with your story with your previous label, have you had time to think about how you want your career to look moving forward with, and has that like had an effect on how this album sounds?
Yeah, I mean, I think every day, whether there's a pandemic or not, we're afforded the opportunity to think about how we want our life to go, or what we can do during the course of 24 hours to like work towards our goals or our dreams. And I don't think that I necessarily took like a full regroup in the way that some people did during the pandemic, or certainly not because of the pandemic. You know, the stuff with the previous label happened right at the end of 2019. So I was sort of already rethinking what was next,
right.
as well as like a bunch of just life stuff that happened to me on a personal basis, where I was forced to sort of like reckon with reality. And so I don't think that I was like put into a mindset that would have been different from if everything was normal. And I also think that I'm thinking about the next steps every single day, and I plan my day like towards putting one foot towards, you know, whatever the dream feels like it is.
Okay. And was it with this album particularly, was there a catalyst moment where you started writing and you were like, this is where I'm going to go with this album? Was there an overall theme to the album?
You know, the theme kind of emerged after the songs were coming together. I worked over the course of, in between tours, like over the course of 2019, I would sort of just wrote as many ideas as I could. And I went into the studio with like 25 or 30 song ideas. Some were, you know, totally complete to the point where like we were even playing some on stage already. Some were just like a verse idea, or some were just like the form of a song with no lyric yet. And like basically I started whittling it down from there. So because there was so much on the table, I don't think I had like a concept behind this record where I was like, I'm writing this record to express like this thing. I just was making songs. And then once they all kind of came more into focus, and once I realized I'm working with like this many actual songs, and you know, sort of like chipping it down from there, it's sort of just naturally found itself a theme because it was all written in my life at around the same time.
Yeah. Was there one song on the album, like you said that some came more fully formed and then you had bits of others? Was there one song in the album that took longer to really finish?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a song called The Sway on there that has been around. Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
That one's been around for longer than like that one. I think I wrote maybe even in 28, like beginning of 2018, probably maybe 2017. It's been sort of, we played it, we kind of took it off the list. I tried to record it once, it went really badly. Like I kind of just have had that song floating around for a really long time, and in my brain it always sounded like jam band, like Dave Matthews thing, and I like really didn't want it to sound like that, but every time we played it, it kind of felt like that. And it took a lot of like really paring back to get it to the point where it is now. So I feel like that one took the longest to sort of like feel good and feel how I wanted it to feel.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier that you like to listen to albums, and a lot of people these days, they just listen to playlists and individual tracks. So was the sequencing on the album important to you?
Totally. Yeah. I love sequencing records. This one went through like 3 or 4 different sequences, which isn't really even that much, but it's really important to me. For the people who are listening to full length albums, I feel like that is really important to those type of people, and it's important to me. And like, I love to think about the album as like a comprehensive piece of art in its own, just like each song is a comprehensive piece of art individually. But when you put them all together, you know, you have an opportunity to like build the story arc, or even just build an energy arc in a way that, you know, is harder to do, I would say, in 3 minutes or less.
You've obviously been working not only on the band, but you've been working as a producer and an engineer as well with some pretty cool artists. Just off the top of my head, you've got Waze Blood, Slow Dive, which is amazing, and then Logic, which is a little bit out there. How does working with artists like that affect how you write?
I think it's just cool to see what other people are doing, like definitely the Logic record that I worked on was a long time ago, and I was just an assistant engineer at this studio in Malibu that he was working at, and like he makes music completely different than I would, it's like it's all coming off an MPC, and it's obviously like rap is a style that I don't find myself often performing on my own, but like obviously I love it and I am influenced by it. And so yeah, I mean, it's just cool to see how other people do stuff. On the complete opposite side of the spectrum, tracking vocals for that Wise Blood record, it was made in such a traditional way with real musicians in the room playing the songs down live, and then Natalie singing on top of it, which is when I came into the picture on that record. So yeah, it's just kind of cool to see what people are doing, and inevitably there's a song or two that gets stuck in your head, and then you're like waiting and waiting and waiting till it comes out so everybody else can hear it and be excited about it too. And yeah, I think it's just like how we talked about listening to a bunch of records. It all just sort of is in the sauce.
If one of your family members was having dinner with friends and they said, "Oh, what's Sarah up to these days?" How would they describe what you do you think?
I have no idea. None of them really are in like entertainment or music world at all. And like, for example, I had lunch at a family friend's house, and they have a pool, so we were really excited to go swimming. But like they wanted to get the leaves out of the pool, so I was helping clean the leaves, and everybody was sort of jokingly being like, "Oh, you're so good at that. Like, you should like pick up a side hustle." And I was like, I hate to break it to you, but like I don't have time for a side hustle because I'm like paying my rent, making music, and working with other bands. And so I feel like, I think that they are really supportive and they're really excited about what I'm doing. I think my dad in particular was excited to see like Rolling Stone talk about us, and like sort of the more household name publications write about us. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like everybody's just a little confused, which makes sense because it doesn't really seem real, I think, to people who report to an office regularly.
Right. And you've toured with like quite a variety of bands as well, like everybody from like punk bands to, well, I know you're going to be playing with Death Cab soon, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you go out and play to these different audiences, does it change the way that you play? Does it change the way you choose the songs for the set?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I want to do our best showing for whatever the audience might be. I think at the end of the day, I want to play a great set for myself and for the people in my band to feel proud of what we did. But I think there's a little bit of set list catering we've done. The sets that we've played in front of Pup's audience definitely take a different direction than the sets that we've played in front of like Lucy Dacus's audience. Yeah. And a set that we're going to do in front of the Death Cab audience, I think it's a little harder to predict, like sort of, or to generalize what their crowd could be, because they've been around for so long and they have decades worth of albums to listen to. So I feel like I can't really anticipate what to do. So I'm just going to kind of pick a bunch of songs that have us sounding our best,
Yeah. So if somebody had never heard your band and they said, "Oh, play me a track, I want to hear what you sound like," is there anything that you would choose to play them first?
Yeah, I feel like Pool Hopping was kind of like peak all elements of the band firing off at the same time, because it's pretty poppy and it's pretty listenable, I think, for your average music fan, and it's also kind of weird and wacky and high energy, and we definitely try to play with a sense of humor and with a sense of performance at all times. So I feel like that's one of the more uniquely us songs that I've put out in a while.
Cool. Yeah, I love the sense of humor that you've injected into everything, from the lyrics to the videos and even like the song titles. And now you are getting noticed by people like Rolling Stone and even New York Times and people like that. So what at this point in your career, what defines success to you?
What defines success to me is, I'm gonna steal this from this, I guess, speechwriter is the best word I can use to describe this guy, Earl Nightingale, who says success is the progressive realization of your dreams, basically. So if you're progressively working towards accomplishing your dreams, that's success. You know, like waking up every morning and feeding my dog and like working on a track feels successful to me. And I think that I'm really happy that I've finally gotten to the place in my life where that's every day.
Nice. Well, I'm very happy for you.
Thanks.
How do you feel? The album's coming out really soon. Like, do you get nervous or just excited about putting new music out into the world?
Yeah, it's definitely a little nerve-wracking. As you know, I feel pretty fortunate that it seems like people are liking stuff right now, but I want to just have like reasonable expectations and just be excited that people are finally hearing this stuff at all.
Yeah. And you've got these Death Cab dates, you've got a couple of your own dates, and then what's after that? Do you have plans after that?
Yeah, I mean, the 2022 is sort of unannounced right now, but we're working on figuring out some touring for US and hopefully beyond. And other than that, just working on a few people's records before I get on the road full time.
Yeah, nice. Is that tricky, like planning who you're going to record with as well as trying to work on your own tour dates?
It's a little tricky. For the most part, it's been okay. It just sort of, it changes how much I can take on, and it also changes, I think, what the timeline is for a lot of artists. Hopefully not too much, but anytime I can spare, a 3 to 4 week block, I try and get myself in the studio on Hottie stuff or on somebody else's stuff.
Nice. Well, I wish you all the best with the album, and
thank you.
Hopefully you'll get out on the road and beyond the US up to Montreal and Canada.
I hope so.
Maybe next year. So I look forward to seeing you on a stage at that point. But in the meantime, it's been really nice chatting with you. So thanks.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Steve.
All right. And enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks. Good to meet you.
All right. You too. Thanks, Sarah.
Bye.